Is there a particular Cowboy player that jumps to mind for y'all that you're like, he needs to have a good camp or I think he's going to get cut?
I'm very interested in the cornerback situation and how that's all going to play out because there are a lot of rookies that like they could steal a job. I think that the Cowboys re-signed Jordan Lewis with the mindset of we're going to let this dude be a playmaker. Okay. But at the same time, like we've seen him have moments of what was he thinking on that one? Right. Anthony Brown, I think, is as steady.
He has a locked-in contract, right?
Yeah, and I think he's as steady of like he's going to be on the team. I'm not saying steady as a player. There are times when you're like, wow, he's the best player. He's the best cornerback on the field. Right. And then there are other times where you're just like, how'd that happen? But I think he's the more consistent of the group that they have right now. But I'm just very interested in at the moment in what the Cowboys secondary is going to look like. So I think there's going to be a couple players in the secondary that really need to have good camps, but there's the thing about it is it's so mixed with young players. Yeah. That there's nobody other than I really don't think there's anybody in that secondary that can get cut because other than maybe Jordan Lewis.
Honestly, all the players on this list are young players.
Okay, all right.
I do have one. Okay. But I'm taking it from our brothers G-Bag Nation. Jeff Kavanaugh was talking about, I don't know if this was a week or two ago, Bradley Anai versus Dorance Armstrong. There might not be room for both guys on this team.
Okay, that is interesting because one of the names is Trysten Hill. And they're in that defensive line mix. I know that is not the specific competition that you mentioned.
That's interesting. That name's, and I'm going to get back to Mike's in just a second, but that name specifically.
Yeah, I have his rookie card in gold. So.
He has no connection to
that's the other dude.
There's nobody backing him, right?
Yeah.
The Trysten Hill was a Rod Marinelli guy. And the only reason he was drafted was because Rod Marinelli, and had he been the actual second pick for the Cowboys this year, there wouldn't be as much pressure. Yeah. But they had traded the first round pick, and so he was the first pick, so his name got put out there. Otherwise, I don't think people would even know or care about him. But Armstrong's interesting because Jerry Jones knows Dorance Armstrong more than anybody out there. And so do you think there's any way that he's going to cut his favorite player? How many times, Kevin, did he bring his name up last year out of nowhere? We would be like, hey, what do you think about Dak's recovery? And he'd be like, Dorance Armstrong, guys.
My initial thought would be probably not that they're going to cut him. But
Anai needs the opportunity, right?
And Anai needs the opportunity. I'm more fascinated by his name popping up on this list per Mike and G-Bag, as well as Trysten Hill, because Trysten Hill went from being a bust to being hurt to being, what an amazing, or not being hurt, being a bust to, what a nice beginning of the season he's had in training camp and everything, and then he's hurt, and now he might get cut. It seems like we've already really ebbed and flowed with him.
It really does depend on what their approach on this defense is going to be and how good he can adapt to what Dan Quinn wants. That's all it is for Trysten Hill at this point.
What about Noah Brown?
That's interesting because I was looking at the roster. Are they saying, is it Simi?
Yeah.
Fahoku?
Fahoku?
That is one of the players, along with, if you're talking about somebody like Cedric Wilson, that you would wonder if they would get more time or if they would move ahead of Noah Brown.
I think Cedric Wilson, you could trade him for a future 6th or 7th round pick. I'm not saying that that's great or anything, but I think teams would want him if you were to not want him on your team.
I think if you moved on from Michael Gallup at some point, Cedric Wilson fills in, you're fine.
Yeah, and
they're both free agents at the same time. I don't think you lose it.
Well, I was talking about a trade scenario, but if you were to move on from Michael Gallup right now, Cedric Wilson's your third receiver. Easy.
Okay. And then, so I think they're saying that's one of the reasons that they feel like Noah Brown needs to show up well, because he's already passed by Wilson in the depth chart, and will he get passed next by a rookie?
By Simi. That's interesting because I feel like Noah Brown is this dude that consistently shows up when given opportunities, but that for whatever reason hasn't gotten all the opportunities. And whether it's injury or other things that are keeping him out. But Noah Brown, whenever they throw him the ball, he does some good things, and he's a physical receiver. I think a lot of people were expecting him to be another iteration of Dez. And that was unfounded. They were like, this dude can do these things. He's as physical as Dez is. But I think he's a really good quality fourth receiver on a team that's just so deep at receiver.
So I found one that I don't know how interesting it is.
With Femi though, Broadus has said that he's talked to multiple people that were like, man, the
Stanford wide receiver.
Yeah, you got to steal at receiver. Okay. So he's got some good potential in front.
All right.
How about this? Offensive tackles. You usually keep 2 backups, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you drafted Josh Ball from Marshall. Horrible story, but he's on the team.
Yep.
He was high enough that you're not going to cut him, would you say?
Yeah, because he's 4th rounder?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm assuming as long as he doesn't do anything stupid.
Probably.
That he makes the team. That means you can only keep Terrence Steele or Brandon Knight as your other backup. Who played, obviously, they both were your starters last year, right?
Yes, with injury concerns.
Right, so one of them would have to get cut, most likely?
Unless, what is the position flex on both of those? Because if you have position flex on either one, then you can definitely keep 8 offensive linemen. Mm-hmm. And so if you've got position flex for either one of those, then you can keep all of them.